Welcome back to Out Loud with your girl, Claudia Jordan. Now, my next guest is a music executive, talent manager, and father to musical icons Beyonce and Solange Knowles. And he just launched a new podcast, and he's a doctor, and he's a professor, and he got a lot going on. Please welcome Mr. Mathew Knowles. Welcome to the show, Mr. Knowles.
Hey, Claudia. How are you? I just heard you were living in Dallas and you just went through that storm. I hope you and your family are well.
Thank you so much. And likewise, I know you're in Houston, I'm in Dallas, and our state really went through it. And you know what's crazy about the weather here? It was so horrific for that week. And then 3 days later, it's 70 degrees, people are jogging outside, and like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, it was in the 70s, just like you said, 3 days later. It's crazy. But the craziest thing is what your governor just did.
I mean, can we talk about Greg Abbott real quick? I cannot wait to vote him out of office. I'm sorry. I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to it. Very simple, I think. So how's everything going for you this year? It's been a wild ride, I guess you'd say, with just life, the world, right?
It has been. And this is an opportunity for us all, Claudia, to change, adapt, and modify our behaviors. I went through a period through this coronavirus where I had to call my therapist, who's, by the way, a Black therapist in Dallas, by the way. And I always talk about health and wellness and mental health as well, because this COVID had me with so much fear that I was going to die because I'm a cancer survivor, and just recently a cancer survivor. So, I knew I needed to get help. But that was my biggest challenge, was facing my fear through this COVID, that I would catch it and possibly, because of my cancer, being a cancer survivor, that I would actually, die from it. That was tough for me.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you're a survivor, and in more ways than one, but how was that for you? Because I think all too often, especially in the Black community, right, especially with Black men, we don't really seem to have that luxury of saying, I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling vulnerable. Like, we're always having to put on a strong face and be there for everybody else. And that's a real fear. That's a real thing to worry, because, you beat one, scary thing, the cancer, which is, had to be so scary. And then on top of that, to add the COVID on top of that. So how did that affect your day to day? Were you depressed? Were you?
No, actually, no. The good thing my therapist told me is that when there's a crisis, whatever we bring to the crisis, if we bring problems in our marriage, problems in our job, whatever those problems are, they're magnified 25%. So a lot of people, you heard of a lot of breakups, right? In this whole COVID period. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was magnified. So I've just learned that, when we look at Black health and wellness, and especially Black men, in every area of modalities of death for Black men, we're number one, except for breast cancer and suicides. So it's all about health and wellness and mental health and wellness.
Right. Wow. Well, I'm glad you're speaking on it, because I love that we're getting more open, and it's okay. It's less taboo to speak about these things. I think it just helps so many people that are just watching. And now you've been married to your wife, Miss Gina, for over 8 years. And has it been challenging maintaining, a healthy relationship during the pandemic? It's a lot of extra stress. Like you mentioned earlier, people getting like, stressed out.
No, just the opposite, Claudia. Just the opposite. I am so grateful. My wife is my best friend, and she comes from the entertainment industry. She was Vanessa Williams' assistant for 15 years, a model like you as well. But more importantly, we laugh every night for hours. We watch TV. I tell jokes. I make up poems.
Really?
I didn't know my wife could cook, but she really is a really good cook. through this coronavirus. So we all grew from it.
So you writing your white poems, that's cute. Like I think that's cute. We don't really hear about that much anymore. Now it's like you send a quick text. So you're really writing poems?
Oh yeah, I love to write poetry. I just come out of nowhere to come up with something. I mean, I'm a songwriter. Most people maybe don't look at the song credits, but if you look at Survivor, which was the #1 song, you'll see M. Knowles. That would be me.
Wow. You've had a fascinating career. So, which brings me to my next question. After years of success, I mean, Destiny's Child's humongous success and all the other business ventures, you told Page Six that you're leaving the music industry. When I read this, I'm like, no, he can't leave. No, not you. Can you explain why? And is this true?
Well, Claudia, I think we all should understand that we're all going to transition at one point, in one way or the other. We just heard your guest talking about transition, right? For me, I'm grateful for this, what I'm about to say, and I say it through gratitude that I have the opportunity to work with Destiny's Child, the #1 female girl group in the history. To work, I look on my wall here, Earth, Wind, and Fire, photo of me signing them to my record label, making their last record. OJ's right there, signing them. Shaka Khan and the London Symphony, I did an album with Shaka to see the success that Solange have had. Leandria Johnson, #1 gospel female artist. Brian Courtney Wilson, Trinity 5-7, #1 contemporary. I'm grateful I've done it. I've been to the mountaintop, as Dr. King would say. And it's time for me to move aside and let younger people like yourselves and others share the way and the path to the mountaintop. And so my whole focus now is education. And from a business standpoint, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, when we look at race, understanding our story, not his story, as history, that's his story. We're finding out a lot of his story is not accurate. I enjoy that. I enjoy the academia part of life now. And watching young people, I'm really proud of young people. I'm proud of what they've done over the last year and how they let their voice be heard. And it's not, especially young people understanding it's a new day. It's not about we shall overcome. It's about we shall have wealth in America. That's what it's about. And I'm just, I'm one of those old cats that just really smile when I see the younger generation. Makes me very proud.
Well, when you put it that way, with all those things you've accomplished, I guess you deserve a break. You can chill now, Mr. Knowles. Now, you're not really chilling because you're still a professor, you're still into education, and you recently launched the Impact podcast on iHeartRadio. And the Reverend Al Sharpton was your first guest. Let's take a listen.
I've never gone in a Jewish community and saw a Booker T. Washington delicatessen. Everybody owns their stuff. You come in our community, everybody's in business but us.
Oh, you know what? I want to take a quick break and talk more about that. We have so much more with Dr. Mathew Knowles when we return. Welcome back to Out Loud with your girl, Claudia Jordan. I'm joined by Mr. Mathew Knowles, and we're talking about his podcast, the Impact Podcast. And I want to ask you, what kind of subjects and guests are you planning to have on Impact?
Well, actually, it's Mathew Knowles Impact. I don't want to get in a legal battle because there's somebody else show that's called Impact.
Oh, sorry.
So it's Mathew Knowles Impact. But we if you listen to this week, I have Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, a right-wing conservative Trump supporter that says he's an Oreo, black on the outside, white in the inside, and that Donald Trump is the best thing since the coming of Jesus.
Mr. Knowles, how did you deal with him? He is so obnoxious.
You've got to hear that interview. I like to use a razor and slice you and let you walk out, and then you believe.
Okay, so I've watched some of his interviews, and he's part of me was like, is this a parody? Is he a white man in blackface and just saying these things to just make us mad, or is he for real?
He's for real. And guess what, Claudia? He grew up in Alabama on a dirt road with an outhouse, just like I did. And he says racism does not exist in America, period. A very unique, because I believe in letting people voice their perspective. And I do a lot of research. I mean, I researched a lot about you. I could tell you your mother's Italian, your dad is Black, went to Baldwin Wallace University, was Miss Rhode Island. I mean, I do that kind of research on people. So I have a conversation with them. That's what my show is all about, building bridges and tearing down walls. So I have Scarface the rapper, who almost died, came hours of death from COVID, and him and another Black man in Houston. It was just fascinating to hear these two men talk about their experience with COVID. I have Questlove coming up. Questlove once in the New York Times said there was 10 people in the world he wanted to have dinner with. And it turned out I was one of those 10. So I was really interested in understanding why. And then I have, I had Al Sharpton. I have some really, I'm not going to give it all away now, but.
I'm hooked already. I'm tuning in. I really want to hear this. I want to support, definitely. So what do you think, Mr. Knowles, are the most important issues facing Black America today? I know it's a really broad question, but off the top of your head, what do you think are some of the,
Well, it's the short answer is race and health and wellness. And all of that is part of what I call structural racism. And all of it stems from education, because when you don't have education, you are in poverty most of the time. When you don't have education, you're not aware of health and wellness and early detection. When you don't have the education, you don't have a good job most of the time. You can't generate the income. You can't have good housing. So a lot of it stems from structural racism that happens in America every day. That really comes from slavery, Claudia. The things that happen, privilege, the judicial system, with all of this. When I look at senators and I see these old privileged white men, all of this has to change. We are in a transition in America, and there are some people fighting tooth and nail to keep that privilege that they have.
Isn't it amazing what Georgia is doing in light of the huge Black turnout that happened this last election? To be so blatant in our faces, to be like, we're going to bring back the whole Jim Crow thing. We don't want you to vote. We're going to make it a lot harder for you to vote. And you would think that in 2021, it wouldn't be possible. Like, surely there's some safeguards in place to prevent these things from happening. But they're happening right in our faces. They're not even embarrassed about it.
Well, I think what's even crazier is the word for me is Vice President Pence. Just recently, 2 days ago, supporting this whole thing that the election wasn't real. When they tried to hang him, here's a guy that's turned his back, just like in Georgia, turned their back. But it just goes to show where we are and what we have to be aware as Black men and women. And also, we need to build those relationships with the brown community. We need to build even bigger and greater relationship with the white community. We can't do this alone. But we realize 75 million people voted for a man that, let me go to my notes. You know this man, you actually was on his show as a co-host. Yeah, I did my research on you. Yeah, you actually.
Well, he was sweet on me for a minute, but I worked on.
That's what we're gonna talk about. That's okay. What we don't talk about, right there, Claudia.
When I come on your podcast, I give you all the tea. I'm
gonna have you on too. Mathew Knowles Impact.
Mathew Knowles Impact. I'm coming. So Yeah, I love these kind of conversations. I love how, I hate to use the term woke because I feel like it's overused, but I love how people are caring and are passionate about these things that people used to just gloss past the cable news channels. And now people seem to be more engaged and more involved and more awakened.
Well, I think we've understand better now the Jedi mind trick that the media has given us over the years. But I tell you, I was just talking about young people and how proud I am. Let me tell you how also proud I am of Black women and the leadership role that Black women are doing in America. And when I see you taking your platform and using that for good, that's what we have to do. Because for years, and I used to say this in interviews, Claudia, the worst things said about me and my family were from Black people, not white people. The worst things said. And we have to get over that slave mentality of master saying you can come into my house, but you got to tell on them. You got to think you're better than them. We got to get past that slave mentality that we've been embedded. You know, our culture is one of pride. You know, we are proud people, strong people, and we've got to come together like we've never come together before.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. And I know we'll probably both get dragged over this in some realms, but I don't care. It's a fact. Some of the harshest criticism that Black people in media face a lot of times is from us. We do it to ourselves, and we can link that back to slavery and how there's a bunch of division. You know, it is systematic, I believe. But now that we know what it is, we need to stop doing it because it's 1,000 times more hurtful to get it from our own than when a racist white reporter says something. I'm like, I expect it from them. But
Exactly.
we got to stop doing that. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more with Mr. Mathew Knowles when we return. Welcome back to Out Loud with your girl, Claudia Jordan. I am joined by Mr. Mathew Knowles, and we're talking about rumors. You know what? I want to definitely ask you some more career questions, but we can just spend a minute on this real quick because rumors and negativity sells, especially when it comes to us, and we got to stop doing that. How do you feel about negative attacks on your character or negative press about you? Does it hurt you, or does it?
You know, it did years ago. You have to have tough skin if you're going to be in entertainment and in leadership. If you're in a leadership position, you have to be able to handle criticism, different perspectives that comes with it. So I don't know any leader that hasn't been criticized. So why should I have a pity party about some negativity? It is more hurtful when it comes from one of my own in the media, but I know it's part of the job, so I accept it.
It is, but it shouldn't have to be. Like, we all make mistakes, and the people that are talking the most trash probably have a way more tragic and filthy goings on in their own lives, right?
But what I've understood, and I think this is important, first of all, I don't give a damn. I don't know these peoples. You know, it's like on social media, it could be a 12-year-old saying something. I don't read that stuff. I don't let it impact me like that. So that's why I don't hear. I mean, for years, I've always trained media training. My artists don't even read this stuff. It's just not that important. And normally, these aren't people that support you anyway. So why does it matter? They're not going to go to Mathew Knowles Impact. They're not going to buy one of our records at Music World. They're just going to chatter. So, you know, that keeps us relevant, and we know how to use that negativity and to become a positive, quite frankly. So we've met, you know, over the years, we've learned how to use that negative in a good way.
Good perspective. Wish I would have thought I would have heard that 10, 15 years ago. I
can't wait, Claudia, to get you on Mathew Knowles Impact, man.
Oh, let's do it. I'm ready. We're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
Switching gears to music, you're the founder and creator of Destiny's Child. Amazing, right? And you help with the development of Beyonce and Solange's solo careers as well. When did you know you had something special? Because every parent thinks, oh, my kid can sing, but your kids can really sing. When did you know, like, this is really and truly something special?
Well, I think every parent responsibility is to find your child's passion, that thing that excites them, they dream about, talk about. And so we gave our kids a lot of options. They could, we wanted to surround them with technology if they wanted to do that, fashion, music. They chose music. They were the ones running around singing and dancing all the time. And so we just surrounded them with a team of people. As long as we thought it was a passion. As a parent, how do you know if it's a hobby? Well, you have to tell them to go to practice. It's not a passion, it's a hobby. So we were mindful of that. And so had Beyonce and Solange said that they wanted to be doctors, I would have said, go to med school, but when you finish, your dad would have bought a hospital. Think about that.
Mr. Mathew Knowles, remember, what do you want to be remembered for when you leave this universe?
That I instilled knowledge, that I helped people, that I was real, no bullshit, unapologetic. That's what I want to be noted for, that I was sincere and wanting to help people grow. And sometimes they learn from my mistakes. I grow. Mistakes and failure are opportunities to grow, Claudia, not a reason to quit. Often we quit because of that.
Before we leave, I'm going to put you in the hot seat for just some real quick answers.
Sure.
With the question, you have to answer truthfully. Are you ready, Mr. Knowles?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Name another girl group that you wish you had developed. SWV, TLC, En Vogue, or Escape?
It would be SWV, without question. That's who it would have been.
Do you still keep in contact with all the members, past and present, of Destiny's Child?
Hell no. That would be about, see, what people don't know is Destiny's Child was girls' time that became the dolls, that became something fresh, that became Destiny, that became Destiny's Child. That's about 35 girls, and I didn't even know half of most, like 20 of them, I didn't even know. They came before me. People don't know really what Destiny's Child evolution was.
Last question, and I don't even know if I have enough time for this, but we all make mistakes and grow. What do you believe is your biggest mistake or regret in life?
Not accepting when I could have got 1% of Beats, the headphones, and saying no, I wanted 5%, and I was offered 1%, which would have been $30 million that my wife reminds me all the damn time.
Oh, and I gotta charge you for the interview that we're about to do on Mathew Knowles Impact. Oh my goodness. That was a lot of fun. It really was a pleasure meeting you. I definitely want to do your podcast. I want to thank Mr. Mathew Knowles, Warren D. Robinson, Ryan Bernard, Deja Bernard, and Reagan Bernard for joining me tonight. Thank you for watching us on the Fox Soul TV mobile app. Stay tuned for Fox Soul Screening Room, hosted with our very own Vivica Fox. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Mr. Knowles. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Claudia.